Hi, everybody. We'd like to welcome you all to LLC, the Ladies Leadership Coalition. I am Nicole Glenn. I just wanted to briefly introduce myself. I am the owner of a company called Candor Expedite. And what we're trying to do with this show is gather a bunch of women who are on their journey today and continually on their journey through tomorrow to really talk about women in business and talk about some of the trials and tribulations and great stuff and learning lessons and gathering all of our thoughts and additionally some experts to join us in the future as well to give their insight. But this is a show about women and about business and about career paths and leadership. And so we're really excited to have all of the other women here with myself to start this journey with us. So thank you all for being here today. I'm really excited to have all of us on screen officially after several months of planning. So I did want to introduce, we're going to start with Sharon. Sharon Syre, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm Sharon Syre. I work for Global Net Logistics. I'm the director of logistics. I've been in transportation for the last 30 plus years. When I started, there were very few women in the industry, none in leadership. I started out in sales. So I have a lot of things to tell you about over the years. When I started, there were no computers. There was nothing. You just had to get out there. You were thrown out on the street, and it was very difficult for women. So I'm really excited about these, for all of us to get together, talk, tell our stories, and hopefully we can help you not make some of the same mistakes we've made over the years and help you find success in what you want to do. This is what I want for this group to be able to grow and to encourage and to mentor more and more young people that have been in the business for a while, people who are having issues. We may not have all the answers, but hopefully we will help you make decisions, better decisions, and help you get where you want to be. It's not easy for women still in this industry, but it's a lot better than it used to be, and we want to work with you. And it's so important to have a tribe of women, and I'm so excited to be working with all of these women today. Already we've helped each other. Everybody's got our backs, and we're rooting for each other. So that's what we want to do.
Sharon, can you just speak a little bit on what you've gone through with trying to become a coach?
Yes. What I have found is it's always been, what I've always heard is, well, we've always done it this way, which I didn't buy into. And it was hard to get my voice out there. Men and women are different. We think differently, we have different ideas, and we hear differently. So we can have a man and a woman in the same meeting, and we will come out of that meeting hearing totally different things. So that's why it's important that we listen to each other and come together and talk about issues and come up with the best solutions. So this is why I decided to become a coach. I became a certified coach this year during the pandemic. It kind of gave me the time to do some of that. And what I found was I've been doing this all along because I believe in one-on-ones. If you're not giving your employees one-on-ones, you need to do that. And if you're an employee and your manager's not giving you one-on-ones, insist on it, because you need to have a voice. They need to know, you need to know what your employees want to do. You need to know about them, get to know them, know what they want for the future, and help them get there. And if you're an employee, they help you and they push you, and so it works both ways. So to me, that's coaching. That's how I started, and I learned how to give good one-on-ones, keep notes, and I've really been able to help a lot of my employees grow and become leaders. And so that makes me very proud, and that's what I feel makes me the most successful.
I think we're really excited to hear more about what you've learned from that program over the next several months. So we'll be picking on your brain for those ideas so people can learn and share those ideas, because again, we only know what we know. And so to get this advice and understanding of what other things that have worked for other people is just, it's going to be awesome. So I'm excited to hear more on that topic. So thank you. Liz, Wayne, we'd love to hear from you on your background.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Good morning, ladies. Super excited to be here with you all to kick this journey off. So I have been in transportation and logistics my whole career. Celebrated 19 years this month, actually. So I'll be excited. Next year, I'll have the big 2 decades under my belt, which will be a big accomplishment. So I got into the industry on accident, and I hear that a lot in transportation and trucking. It's exciting to me now to hear all these universities offer logistics degrees. It's like, this has been such a big sector of our economy for so long. Why are we just now studying it? Why are we just now teaching it? So I'm excited about it. But I came in, like a lot of people, totally by accident, had to learn everything on the fly, like I'm sure a lot of you did. I started, I had a infant child at home, and I credit a lot of my early career growth to my exhaustion, and I'll tell you why. I was hired originally by an asset-based trucking company, family-owned in Omaha, as the receptionist. And they had an automated phone system. So my phone only rang when someone pushed 0, which was about once an hour. And I was so tired from not sleeping at night that I started everybody around me was so busy and it was so hectic. And so I just literally, in an attempt to stay awake, started just asking people if I could help them with their jobs. And what a blessing that ended up being, because it let me really learn a lot of different aspects quickly. Because I'm just taking a little thing off this person's plate, a little thing off this person's plate. And, I did okay with it. So it's trucking, right? We're busy. So they just kept giving me more and more. And it was great. So it was a great way to learn, a great company to learn in. We were on the asset side, as I mentioned, had at that point maybe 350, 400 trucks, and also a couple of brokerage arms, which is where I ended up finding my calling. So that was back in 2002. I started there. In 2008, I got an opportunity to be the first employee for a brokerage, so 100% logistics, no assets, similar to the CH model and that, and was able to learn a lot there. That's really where I first went into a leadership role. At that time, I probably was not qualified for the role. I probably didn't deserve it, but I jump in and I dig out. So I can say I'm much better than I was back then. But you've got to fail to learn, and a lot of learning in that role. Eventually, I decided to form ABLE. So I am the founder and president of ABLE Transport Solutions. We were founded in 2014. And, really my goal there was to bring my passion for the industry to my customers, my carriers, my employees, and put my spin on things, which I think I've been able to do. And it has been a whole lot of fun, a whole lot of challenge, whole lot of fun every day, right? So that's a little bit about my, career in a nutshell. Personally, proud wife and mom. I joke that I have 27 kids. I don't have 27, but I have a lot. I'm sure I'll talk about them at some point here. But what I'm looking forward to with this group is just, I'm a lifelong learner. And as Nicole said, we don't know what we don't know. And so I found, that my best challenges, evolution, and all of that comes from others. And, it's just a spark. You hear somebody says something and it takes your mind even down a different path than maybe what they were talking about, but because you can relate, or, we all have the same struggles. And so I am just excited to share with the group anything, any value I can add. And I'm sure excited to learn from everybody. So just overall excited to be here.
Well, thank you, Liz. Blythe, we would love to hear from you.
Okay, my name is Blythe Brownlee. I'm based in Jacksonville, Florida, and I have been in logistics for the better part of the last 10 plus years. Similar to Liz, I got started out as a receptionist, quickly moved into an executive assistant role where I got to learn all facets of the business. My boss at the time, who is now my mentor, found out what I was all about my side hustle, which my side hustle was a sports and entertainment blog. And so when he found out about that, he said, well, why don't you go ahead and start doing that for our company? So I started managing the marketing and the website for a big time company here in Jacksonville, and just sort of a trial by fire. So my boss really believed in early on social media, inbound marketing. And so that's really where I got my feet wet, and I was sent to conferences all over the country. I believe that we were the second logistics company to ever join HubSpot. So that's how early on we were in the game of some of these early marketing initiatives. And that's sort of where I live and breathe, because with unfortunately, a lot of logistics companies out there, they were a blend of they were non-asset based first, and then they became asset based, and some things happened, and the company was a little mismanaged. Eventually, ended up going out of business. So it was a really sort of a learning experience to learn, what to do and then what not to do. And so I took that with me into several different career paths, because when that company closed, I sort of saw it as my opportunity to pursue sports and entertainment full time. So I started working at a local magazine, became their editor in chief, and then got into some local sports broadcasting, talking about the Jaguars. So it's sort of evolved in a natural way, I think, for me, from coming from a writer to marketing experience, and then taking that to a B2C role. And then after doing radio for so long, I went back and worked for a 4PL, and I was sort of their marketing person, inside the office, outside of the office. And then it finally got to the point where my mentor pretty much said, it's time for me to push you out of the nest. It's time for you to go off and start your own company and do your own thing, because I can't provide that, that level of growth that you obviously are craving. So about 4 years ago, I opened up my own marketing agency, BrownleeBrands.com, and pretty quickly realized that I needed to niche down. And I use that in air quotes as niche down, because I said, well, I'll just start, focusing on the logistics market, instead of when you first start your business, you just want to take, whoever's going to give you a check, you just want to take it. So I was doing construction work. I was doing, home builder site work. And then I said, I really need to focus on one industry, so I'm not spreading myself too thin. So that's when Digital Dispatch was born, about almost 3 years ago. And ever since then, I've been heavily involved with a lot of the different conferences in the trucking and freight space. And it's been really interesting to watch. I always use the bathroom line as an indicator, because if I'm sure all of you have been to some of these trucking conferences, the bathroom line for the women's room is non-existent. But if you go to another conference, it's especially a marketing conference, the bathroom line is insane. So I'm looking forward to watching that bathroom line grow. I guess I could say that now with future conferences, as we all start getting back out into the world.
One of the things that's interesting to me with logistics is marketing is starting to be more of a, I guess you could say, thing for it. But it's kind of crazy to see some of the even larger companies out there that are doing a good amount of revenue still not have that presence.
There's a lot of global companies that have one person that is in charge of all of their US-based marketing, or they just don't have anybody at all. And they put, it was to my benefit that they said, oh, well, just let her do the marketing. Let the executive assistant do the marketing, and she can handle it. So that's really where I focus a lot of my efforts, is helping those small teams in order to market better, because I think that's where a lot of the synergy comes, because they might have a lot on their plate, but they're all in the office and they can have that direct response and know who the subject matter experts are.
I agree with that for sure. Well, thank you. Charlie, we would love to hear from you.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. And Blythe, I love your bathroom line analogy. That's so funny. And really, that's one of the reasons I'm here, just to find more like-minded females and connect and share stories. And my story is actually similar to Liz's in the sense that I found myself in logistics. It was not what I thought I would do when I grew up, but I own a 30-person recruiting firm called CS Recruiting, and we are in Chicago, and we focus exclusively on recruiting for logistics, supply chain, and transportation. So it's a very big industry, as we all know, and we work with 3PLs, we work with asset providers, manufacturers, technology companies, equipment companies, helping them find the right talent. And the way I got into this industry was my husband was a freight broker out of college, and he started a transportation technology company in the early 2000s, an online marketplace load board concept ahead of time. So after I had my third son, I went back to my job in advertising, and it was just a thankless job and a grind. And so I wanted to work, and I begged my husband to work for him. He had an 8-person company at that point, and he begrudgingly let me join the team. And I kind of started as an office manager, and I was like, I will get coffee, I will file papers, I just want to be around adults. And really recruited for the company through 4 years, and we finished out at about 108 people, and then the company sold. So I stayed on as a freelance recruiter for them for a while, and I was pregnant with my third son. I had my third son, and literally the week after he was born, all of a sudden opportunities just came at me every way. So I also was exhausted, Liz. And one of the things I found was I actually had a huge competitive advantage because I would work at night while I was feeding my baby. So it was what I would just like flip through resumes and, do the scrolling at night. And then I would, sit back at my computer the next morning and wow, I'm ahead of the game. I've got, all these resumes that I sourced at 2 a.m. So it was just a funny evolution. I never really intended on starting a business. It was opportunity that I couldn't pass up. So my first employee was my husband. I recruited him about a year in. We ran the company together with a lot of help from our team, and he took a step out about a year ago. So running the company as a president of the group, and hopefully an inspiring female to my team. So really excited to be here. I heard some advice recently. Somebody said it's lonely at the top. And I feel like that is one thing we can all connect on is just, nobody's managing us. Nobody's acknowledging us. So how do we stay motivated and know that we're doing the right thing? And, we've got to connect. We've got to have a community. We've got to learn from each other. So really excited about what everyone can bring to these conversations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you guys, I have all of a sudden a leaf guy outside. So I'm going to turn this over to Christy. Christy, would love to hear from you as well.
Thank you. I'm so happy this finally kicked off. Nicole brought this to my attention last year, actually, when she had reached out to me specifically to ask me for some advice. And to be quite honest, it's been a great journey to get here today. So Christy Canishal, President, CEO of Canishal Logistics. I actually started in the industry back 24 years ago in '97. It was a pretty interesting journey as well. I went to college, decided to actually drop out of college, and I was going to buy a pizza shop, talked to my father about it, and he convinced me to come work for him. I really didn't know what he did, but this is what he did. He was on the logistics side, 3PL. So we actually are an intermodal marketing company, but we also have a truck brokerage and a LTL division as well. So my journey has definitely been pretty crazy. I started at the very bottom, working 80 hours a week, pretty much, weekends, nights, started in intermodal dispatch. And through my journey, I have worked in every division within my company, from finance to claims to collections to highway, LTL, pricing, HR, you name it, I have done it. So I think that's one thing that has made me very well versed in the industry, learning every piece of what we do here. And I think that my employees respect that I have done that job and have, been through those challenges that they're facing. Maybe not today, because the challenges I think are a lot more difficult today than what they were. But, I'm really looking forward to this journey, because one thing I will say is when I started, there was, like Sharon said, not many women at all. I feel like I didn't have many women to even talk to. A lot of events I went to, I was the only woman in the room out of maybe 60 to 100 people. So it was very intimidating for me, even going up and talking to people. The biggest thing I would say or challenge for me is just coming out of my shell and being able to ask people for advice. Obviously, my father gave me a great opportunity to work my way up through the company. And today we are a woman-owned company, which I'm very proud of. And, I'm just so proud of what we have done here. But one thing I will say is, not have I only learned from other women, I am a mentor to other women as well. And I think that no matter how much experience you have, I've learned a lot by making mistakes. And I want to help other women not be able, or I guess not have those mistakes if they don't have to make those mistakes. Sometimes that is a good learning practice, obviously, but there's a lot of advice that I can get from different women, different industries, different size companies, different areas. We're always learning, but I also have a lot to give, and I want to be able to give back to the community and to other women just in general. So I'm super excited about this and just very happy to be here with all you women. Thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's great. I love hearing all the stories. I think as time goes, more of that will unfold. And I did this is the company I own. When we first started off a little anxious for our first show. So I'm sorry about that, guys. But again, I am Nicole Glenn, and I am the owner of a company called Candor Expedite. With what each one of you said, it's like I can pull little snippets of my past from really all of you. It's funny because it was the same thing too, where I started off by accident, got brought into this industry, and I loved the chaos of it. So like my side of Sharon, I was in here when there was a computer specifically for debt. Like it wasn't on your computer. We got a debt printout. And then in regards to motherhood, same thing, where it was, I was pregnant with twins, and I had to work remote. It was weird. This is years ago. I was working remote, trying to grow my career in between times of feedings, naps, you name it, trying to get things done. And I had a great opportunity too. I worked for a company that had a partnership split, and it was really divided down the middle. And I decided to stay where I was with that company and really got an opportunity to work hand in hand with the business owner. So I'm a very outspoken person, want to do things. I don't really think of anything holding me back besides myself. That's a constant thing where I'm analyzing who I am, where I'm going, what I'm doing. And I think that's the only setback that I put upon myself with stuff like that. But jumped in and had a great opportunity to help someone really rebuild a business and took off on the sales side. It was an awesome experience and it taught me a lot. And I was taught to be selfish in the sales role, go out there and bring in as much business as you can, you. And I watched our company get to a point where we couldn't do anymore. It was, you couldn't go out and sell any more business and feel good about it because all the ops teams were maxed out and things were crazy. So I fell in love with people at that time. So I was asked to become a VP of a company and I didn't want to. I remember talking to my husband going, I really like this sales thing. Like, why? And I knew that the company needed something and I needed to learn. And so I started my journey on managing people. And now sales I love it still. It's just like icing, but being around people and learning and coaching and, watching someone be uncomfortable, to learn and to take those next steps. It's like the best thing for me to watch them come through their challenges and struggles and watch them flourish. So my team is obviously hand selected with myself and my other tight crew of people. And we're building a company that is really focused on service. Right now, I own a company that started in 2017, and it's all about expedite, critical, hair on fire type of situations. And these people that are alongside of me for that ride are just, they're machines, like they're almost conditioned to just mayhem in a good way though, and then educating our customers on different options and different things that they can do. So that part of my journey has been so exciting. But again, in regards to what Christy had said, this whole concept came from really COVID. When COVID kicked in, I was like, okay, I have to start being outside of the business and not like managing emails and saying, hey, do you guys have a quote on this? So I met Christy. I don't even know how, but we started chatting, and she really talked to me. She really pushed me and gave me ideas. And even if they're just these little seeds, I mean, I've really transformed what we're doing at our company with hiring people, taking more risk. And I think that's one of the things that women struggle with is taking risk. It's scary to us because we're more logical. Again, very general statement, but so I wanted to come together and create something that we could elevate others, not just other business owners too, but women who are on those paths to become something, to learn how to ask for that raise or negotiate that next opportunity. So I'm so excited for this too. And I know it's going to keep evolving into different things, but it's a great start with all of you guys. So on to the next question too. I know we kind of touched this a little bit in our topic of last, but I'd love to hear from you guys on really this, how you evolved in your leadership spot. I know we all have stages, and we are currently in stages and going on to the next ones, but maybe talk about your background and some of the good things that you didn't even think would happen, let alone some of the negatives that came to you that led you ultimately down this path. So, Christy, I would love to start with you this time to hear your insight on this.
Absolutely. Obviously my evolution, I talked a little bit about, starting at the bottom and working in several different roles. And, one of the things I maybe didn't mention initially was my dad was my initial mentor, showing me the ropes of how to do things the way he did things. And, ultimately working in every, division, because we were a small company, family owned company. My dad owned the company. He founded the company in 2003. So, I just kind of was that person that took on everything. You just do what needs to be done. And it wasn't always easy working for family. I've had a lot of rough patches through the years. My brother still currently works here. My sister had worked here. We had bought her out a few years ago. My father's no longer an owner of the business as well, but he isn't a consultant for the company still. But, I feel like we had to go through a lot of rough things. And one thing that I did learn was, as much as I take my dad's advice and I went down that path, I had to step out of my shell and take those risks, make those decisions. And if we made a bad decision, pick yourself back up and then try something different. That's happened so many times. We've had situations too where, trying to hire the right people. And you learn throughout your career, how to hire better. Sometimes you're not always spot on, but making sure I think for me, the hardest thing was hiring people smarter than myself because I don't know everything. And surrounding myself by smarter people then in turn made me smarter, obviously, because I couldn't do some of the things that some of these people here do today. Obviously, I'm part of the whole puzzle, but that is key to my success. That is key to the company's success, the people that are on the floor, the management team that is behind me. And those are lessons, that I had to learn. And obviously in a family business, there's a lot of times my dad and I butted heads. Sometimes I had to make tough decisions that really sometimes split the family. And it was just me trying to do what's best for the business first. And ultimately, I just feel like this is where we're at today. And I can't even believe, honestly, that the company is the size that we are today. It just blows my mind every day. I wake up thinking, is this my life? Honestly, I was 19 years old when I started. Did not think that this opportunity that he gave me would turn into this, but it was because I didn't give up. I kept putting myself out there. I kept letting my voice be heard. And I just pursued, I would say my dream per se. I didn't think I was going to work in logistics, but I knew that I had something that was going to be great. I didn't know how great it would be. But I can tell you now, the sky's the limit for me in this business and the people here. It's just absolutely, I can't even explain it. But I'd love to share that journey with everybody because it's kind of, I didn't graduate from college. I don't have that college degree, but I think it also shows that you put in the hard work and effort and you have the right people around you, you can still become very successful no matter what you do. And I think that's why I'm probably so shocked. Like, how did I get here? So it's definitely been a rough journey for me. But in the same token, it's been an exciting journey. I've learned so many new things, have met so many new people. And, I know we touched on marketing earlier. One thing we had to do was put marketing out there. I had to go out and speak and come out of my comfort zone because we were the little guy out there, or little woman, I guess you could say, out there, company. And we had to get our name out there. And that's one thing that we've done, I think, very well at. So to Blythe's point, there's not a lot of companies that put themselves out there. And that's the biggest thing I think you can do is put yourself out there, come out of that comfort zone, because by us doing that has brought a lot of attention to our company. It has helped make us who we are today as well. And I also want to touch on the point of it's lonely at the top. I say that all the time to everybody that knows me personally. They think, looking from the outside, wow, you have this great life and look at what you're doing. And it is awesome. But at the same token, it's not easy too. And it's very lonely at the top at times. But this is what I love about it, is bringing us women together so that we can all have that voice, be heard, and have each other. Because I didn't have that for most of my career growing up in the industry. And now I think it's just absolutely awesome that there's so many more new women in the industry. And I'm just glad that I decided to stay on this path and not give up.
That's awesome. I do want to ask you one question because I worked at a family-owned business for a long time. And did you feel that a part of your push was because there's a lot more eyes on you when you're the second person or you're a family member? Is the expectation like that much harder than it would be for someone who just works in the company?
I think that, yes, it was, because from what I hear, there's people in family companies that you're family, so you're just there, and sometimes they don't do the job. I get asked the question, my brother is the oldest, why doesn't he run the company? I think my dad was just looking for the person that could actually, do the job, put the time in, he thought was the best decision in his eyes. Honestly, my brother didn't want to do this job, and that's totally fine. Again, I didn't know what was going to come of it, but yeah, the pressure is there because I want to do the right thing. I don't want to be that family business that you have family here because they're family and they're not really doing a job. The business comes first, our people come first. And that's just how it goes. And then the family hopefully benefits from it. And, that's one thing I will say, that struggle between family and the business, making sure that you're just not in a position because you are family. So yeah, I do feel like that pressure to really prove that I could do it. And I also think just the pressure of not having an education behind it, the college degree. My dad used to always say, how important that was. But when I started working for him, I was going to school for criminology and fashion marketing. And I don't think I knew what I was going to do. And here I am in logistics. So, I just had that desire to just succeed. And I was a hard worker. But yeah, I think even to this day, I still feel like I have to prove that I can do the job. And I finally feel like I've made it, if that makes sense.
That's awesome. Good. That's really good. I would assume that pressure does exist, let alone on all of us in general. And then you have additional layers just kind of watching. So that's why I asked that question. Sharon, with you and your path, I mean, it's so dynamic with some of the different things you have done, from starting companies, helping and consulting, and doing all of other things in your path. I would love to hear how it's really evolved for you on the leadership side of things. You're on mute, Sharon, just so you know. It's okay. The line of the year, you're on mute. Yep.
Before I got into transportation, I was an admin assistant, and I worked for a large bank in downtown Dallas in the international department. It eventually turned into Chase Bank, but the executive vice president of the international department was very pro-women. So I was very fortunate at a time in my life when I was trying to decide what I was going to do with my life. I was going to school. They were paying for my college. And when I started there, it was so odd because I had a secretary. I was a secretary, but I had a secretary. And I thought, why do I need her? So it was all very foreign to me. So that was my first part of leadership. I got rid of the secretary. But then he put me over all the secretaries in the whole department. And I was in my 20s, and it was a big responsibility, but he taught me, and like Christy said, he told me, and I've never forgotten it, he said, always hire people smarter than you, because don't be afraid they're going to take your job. You want them to take your job, because then that means you're going to move up, because they're going to make a star out of you. So I've never forgotten that as far as hiring people. But when I left the bank, I went into education for a while, and then I went into transportation. And I started out as I started out working for a small brokerage that was they weren't paying their bills back in the 80s. Brokers had a really bad rap. They would do all this business, not pay their carriers, take the money, close down, open up another brokerage. And so it was really tough. And I watched all this and I'm thinking, how can this even be possible? So I quit working for this company because a driver came in with a gun and wanted to be paid. And I quit that afternoon, and I went to work for another company as an agent, commission only. And so I started with nothing. And so I just set small goals, and I grew it into a pretty successful agency. And then I got offered a job with an asset-based company who I worked for about 12 years. And I started as a commissioned salesperson. Then I became the general manager of the brokerage. Then I became national sales manager. Then I became vice president of sales and operations. So I held nearly every position in that company, kind of like you did, Christy. And it was such a great education as far as transportation was concerned. And then one day, I would still be at that company today. I loved working there so much. But the owner of the company had partners, and the partners came in and took over the business. It was a hostile takeover. They fired all of the managers. I've never been fired in my life. And then that's when I started my own company. I started a brokerage division and an asset-based division, and I hired owner-operators. And we grew from 2 trucks to 25 trucks, and we had that business for about 8 years. And then somebody came in and wanted to buy it, and we sold it. So then during that time, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. So, I didn't know if I wanted to work for another company. So I started a transportation school where I started training people how to become good, ethical freight brokers, because I felt like that was a need to have integrity. And I started my own consulting company. So I had companies like Matson and FAK in Denver. They hired me to come in and do training for them, for their agents and for their brokerages. So I did that for a couple of years. And so I just kind of evolved into the different positions I've held over the years in this industry. But the main thing I was very adamant about, and I thought was very important, is that you have to have integrity in this industry. It's a huge industry, but it's also very small. And if you do something unethical, it will ruin you, because your name gets around very quickly. And so that was, one of the things that I wanted to do was I started coaching and teaching and helping people. I would help small trucking companies start their brokerages. I would help them set up their paperwork, and I'd help them hire their people, and I'd train their people. So I really enjoyed it. And Christy asked me the other day why I stopped doing that. And so I started thinking about that, and I thought, why did I stop doing that? Because that's really what I love doing. And I went to work for another company, and I left them. But the one thing I'm proud about in my history of what I've done is that I always feel like I've left the company that I work for a little better than it was before I was there. I left it better. And so that's what I'm doing. So based on what Christy told me, I started thinking about that. So I have started a new consulting company, and I'm in the process of getting everything done. But it's called SOS, Saving Our Sisters, and so it's going to be about helping women with workplace problems as far as bullying, coaching, things like that. So I'm excited about that. And so you'll hear more about that. But that's how I've evolved into leadership positions. It's just integrity, helping other people, because by helping others, it raises you up.
Congratulations, Sharon. That's so cool. I'm like geeking out over here.
I want to thank Christy for that, because she pushed me a little bit, made me think.
Well, you know what?
Awesome.
I just want to add, because I reached out to her for advice. I mean, I needed to know some things, and she had the experience, and she gave me some good advice. And in turn, I gave her some advice, and see what happens. It all works out.
So cool. So cool. Thank you for sharing that. I want to hear more about that in the future. That is so awesome. Liz, let's hear from you on this.
All right. So, take everything Christy said minus the family business portion. And I can relate to a lot of that. My journey looked a lot like that. And so, you come into leadership, and I think there's, a few different types. I think you can lead with influence or with authority, because you've been put in a manager position or whatnot. I like to think I've always led by influence. I mean, I'm a hard worker. I always wanted the best for the company and the department I was in and the role I was in. So I like to think I always set a good example. But at the same time, I look back to the leader I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and I really get some good kicks and giggles out of certain stories I remember and memories I hold, because I was terrible, quite honestly. And I know I'm getting better all the time. And so I'm excited, for future Liz to laugh at today Liz, because that means I'm still learning and I'm getting better. But one of the things I think, really made me better was what Christy and Sharon have both now touched on, is that when I first came into leadership, I thought that I had to know everything, and I had to be good at everything, and I had to lead someone or a department or a team. I had to know what they were doing and be the best at it and be able to answer every question. And I just know for me, I have become a much better leader since my perspective there has changed, and hire people better than me, that is always what I'm going for. And I introduced that concept to my team a couple years ago, and I've made great strides over the last few years in that area. And I told them a couple of years ago, right now, I believe I am the best president for this company. That may not always be the case, and when it's no longer the case, I will hire someone better than me to replace me. And I mean it. And so I think that ultimately that one shift of perspective is what has made me a better leader in recent years than I used to be, is because I don't feel the need to know everything, be the best at everything. Once I gave that up, I instantly became a better leader. So that's just kind of in a nutshell some of how my, perspective has evolved through my, time in leadership.
Charlie, talking about you, I know you've gone on to carrying everybody to be remote, so
Yeah.
I'm sure your journey it has some interesting sides to it now with that concept. So we would love to hear about your journey with this.
Absolutely. And I love everyone's honesty and humility. It's really refreshing. So my journey into leadership, I'm going to say it really has transformed over the last 14 months or so. As I said before, I started the company in 2010, and looking back, Liz, I totally agree with you. Like every version of me, I'm not that I have regrets or I'm disappointed, but I know I'm getting better every day. And for 8-9 years of my business, I considered myself an employee at my own company, to the point that my husband, who worked with me, his name is Chad. Everyone just assumes CS Recruiting is his company and you work there part-time. And that wasn't the case. And he's the first one to admit it. So I'm a worker. I like getting my hands dirty. And when I think back, I had to do what I did. I had to be an employee in my own company to really appreciate the different positions, the different fires that came up, the different solutions and situations. And we're in the business of brokering people. So we all, all of us here are dealing with people, but we're actually counting on other people for our success. And it's a really vulnerable and very emotional territory. So as I said earlier, right before the pandemic hit, my husband and I had some conversations about him stepping back from the business. And it was really more just, he's an entrepreneur and he helped me get to where we were, and I could not have done it without him. But he wanted to go back to his passion. So right before the pandemic, we decided he was going to take that step back. And at the time, I was working hand in hand with a COO on our team who we had worked with for almost 11 years across 2 different companies. And our COO unexpectedly resigned last spring. And again, full credit to both of these men. I mean, I could not have done what we've done without either of them. But what I've really realized in the last year is they were in my way. And I didn't realize the potential I had to be a leader until they got out of my way. And it was just that, I was busy, I was working hard, I was contributing to the revenue, but when a discussion would come up about, our P&L, I would, gracefully say, like, you guys go have that conversation. I don't need to know anything about it. Just tell me what happens. And I intentionally remove myself from a lot of the tough conversations. So, tough, I was involved in other tough conversations, but the ones that maybe I knew were not my strengths. And since they've both departed, I would honestly say our company has come so far. Again, I'm not doing it alone. I have an amazing leadership team, actually 3 other females that, I consider my peers in the company. And we're doing some amazing things. And to your point, Nicole, we decided to go remote about probably almost 2 months ago. So we've been in an office for the past 10 years. And we always had a bit of a flexible schedule. So really allowing our employees to earn days from home. But what I realized is when our employees work from home, we left them alone. Those were their days to schedule their calls or have private conversations, because our business is very confidential. And when we went remote for the pandemic, like everything just clicked. Like it was not easy to begin with. I know we all struggled and had to figure it out, but a year later, our company is more productive than we've ever been. I would say I can't compete with a pandemic, so I can't solve for people's loneliness or, their desire to have human interaction outside of work. But it was a very collaborative team vote to cancel our lease, move out of our office. And when we were doing it, it was very bittersweet. And I had to remind myself as I was like packing up 10 years worth of stuff, we didn't fail. Like, we are choosing to go remote. We're not moving out of our office because we can't afford the space. Like, this is our choice because we believe we can do this. So I would say very, very happy with the decision, not even from a cost standpoint, just so much more efficiency. And I like to talk about this Steve Jobs quote that I read where Steve Jobs intentionally wore a black turtleneck every day, and everyone knows that was his signature look. But the reasoning was he didn't want to waste energy until he started his workday. And so even something so simple as choosing a shirt in the morning, he considered, expending energy in the wrong place. And so it's something so silly, but I think as women, we can all relate that now that I'm working from home, like, yes, of course, I'm getting up and I'm looking presentable, but I'm not rushing out of the house and thinking like, oh my God, what am I going to bring for lunch? And what time do I have to leave to drive my next carpool? And I have all the time in the world because I'm home. Now, I know that I have to draw the line and manage that balance, but I would say the virtual model for us has been a game changer in the right direction. So just excited to see what the future holds and what we can continue to do. Our plan is absolutely to spend quality time together physically when the world is safe and opens back up. But I think we can manage it with, 2 or 3 events a month where we come together and staying remote the rest of the time. And that's the right balance the team wants. So that's where we are today.
I think it's great having that flexibility for the team and bringing everyone together, but it just shows your leadership that people are excited to be a part of that, where they are away. And it shows that you are entrusting people. And I think that says a lot to your staff going, okay, she knows that we're going to do what we're going to do and we're going to rock this. And then they get a little bit more life balance. So I thought it was so awesome when you had posted that you had made that transition and you're celebrating that. And I'm sure your team is thriving in that environment. So yeah. Blythe, I'm sorry,
thank you.
Charlie.
Nope, thank you.
Blythe, I would love to hear from you on your leadership evolution.
Sure. So I mean, looking back, I think it's always a little bit easier to recognize the leadership because I at the time, I never, from a young age, even to my early career days, I've never thought of myself as a leader, but I've always been put in that leadership position. I think I've always been seen as the strong one. But then what COVID sort of taught me is that sometimes it's the strong ones that are used to helping everybody else that need to be checked in on the most. And so I think for me, I've had a relatively easy business career since owning a business. I'm going to knock on wood so I don't jinx myself. But at the same time, COVID really taught me that this work ethic that I have had for so long of, being the first in the office, the last one to leave, the ones who are burning the midnight oil, that is not the lifestyle that I've wanted to, that I want to lead long term, because I've essentially spent the majority of my 20s and 30s working. And I look up and I think of all of the places that I would like to go and the things I would like to do and see. And I haven't really had that opportunity yet because I've been just obsessed with work. And so for me, over the last year has been a pivotal change for a lot of the way that I conduct business. I go back to the Charlie quote where she says that, it's lonely at the top, and realizing that I can ask for help. I can get help from others. And when somebody is, especially on the client side of things, on the customer side of things, if somebody is being a little too much of an energy vampire, having that confidence to say, maybe you should go do business with somebody else. And I think that it's more about the opportunities. It's not necessarily about the opportunities that I've said yes to. It's more about the opportunities that I've said no to. And that has really helped me benefit over the long haul, over the last year of how I want to conduct business. Another struggle for me too is pricing. How do I price my services? How do I make sure that I'm having my services affordable to the people like me, the blue collar workforce that grew up in sort of a low income environment. And now, I own my own business. And so moving into a phase, I think, that where I value my services more, so I feel confident in projecting that value to others. That's been the biggest realization over the course of my entire career is giving up control, allowing other people to help me, and then allowing other people, both personal and in a business, and choosing where those energy vampires are and saying yes to the right opportunities, and then also saying no to the ones that don't make sense.
I agree with that. For my side of things, it's been more of understanding emotional intelligence. So for a long time, I mean, like you said, burning the midnight oil. I mean, people have said like, oh, Nicole's in the office at 1 o'clock in the morning doing RFPs, and that balance. Again, I did create a vision board this year, which it's funny. There's a section of business, but it's all like fun stuff. So now it's just transitioning to where I want to go on dates with my children. I want to read fun books. I don't need to read every single thing being about business. I want to crochet. I know it's a old lady thing, but I love it. I want to make projects. I want to do all these different things, like you said, and having that, but that does come from entrusting people. And that's also changing and looking at your current emotional intelligence level on where you are. Someone yesterday at my company made a joke about my past, because people used to say, my HR lady used to say when I worked at a different company, I'll hire them and Nicole will fire them, because it was just, in my mind, no one would ever put in that work ethic that I was requiring in my mind to say that that's what was success. And so in the transition of owning my own company, I've put a lot of effort into coaching my team and having that, emotional intelligence and empathy that I lacked for a really long time. It was, all about work and all about the next and the next. And it's like, hey, you have a slew of people that are great people. You need to know who they are, what they want. Like, how do you help them get what they want, being a leader of a company? So that path for me has been the same thing, where I look back and I don't want to laugh at the fact that that's what someone said, like, hire them and Nicole fires. I'm like, that's kind of a sad thing, but it was like watching those expectations and looking at people for people. And I'd say that's one of my happiest things when I'm taking a shower in the morning and I'm washing my hair and I'm going through my day. I'm thinking about, okay, I have this leadership meeting, and how do we walk through that together? And how do I make them see the right perspective and understand theirs? So for me, that's my best takeaway in my leadership journey is watching people evolve. So you guys, we are already approaching the end. It's like we were just chatting, and we could keep going. But, I did want to just say thank you again for everyone sharing your stories. We are going to be doing this monthly to start, and hosting different topics. So if you see at the bottom, there's, again, this scroll. Please email us if you have any ideas or you want to talk on a topic. Again, you don't have to be a business owner to ask us questions and get insight from us. We've, again, been through all of the paths of being employees, starting businesses, trying to grow them. So any stage of your journey, feel free, throw us a question. We did want to hop into the next topic, to be vulnerable again, because that's part of the concept of the show is we're humans, we're trying to lead and coach people. So we want to talk about failures, and what failures we've come across that, how did we learn from those? How do we pick ourselves back up? So all of these women are going to share their insight. Again, some questions that you guys have, please throw it to us in the email or even on a LinkedIn message, please. And again, thank you everybody for coming, and thank you everyone for tuning in on this. And again, we look forward to continually all chatting together through the next couple of months.
Likewise, it's going to be fun.
I agree.
Thank you, ladies.
All right, ladies, let's all have a great day.
It was
Thanks,
fun.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.